Hello, Sarah-Fay from Earth Spirit and the Witch of Nature Magic. So I'm just going to do some for Spring Equinox in the Southern Hemisphere, which is this Sunday, Ostara, Spring Equinox. I'm just going to do a reading from this beautiful book, which is Kindling of the Celtic Spirit by Mara Freeman. So because all the trees were waking up at spring equinox, this made it very something that they would focus on, the Celts, to work with the trees and welcome the trees back from their slumber. So this is about healing with the trees, and this is some of the things they believe. I just love trees, so I really want to share this with you. I just love them. They're just as much as animals. I love trees. So this is healing with the trees. So bark, flowers, leaves, berries and nuts, herbalists past and present have used all the different parts of the tree, yet people who recognised that the real healer was the spirit of the tree itself. So they believed that the real healer was the spirit of that tree. In some places the oak tree was considered so powerful that healing could occur simply by walking around the tree and wishing the ailment to be carried off by the first bird alighting on its branches. In Wales, rubbing the oak with the palm of your left hand on Midsummer's Day kept you healthy all year. Tree spirit medicine was at work a couple of years ago when a woman stood between two ancient yew trees at a sacred centre in North Wales. The woman had breast cancer and was taken there by healers who had discovered the curative power of these trees. As she stood between the trees, she felt at once an enormous bolt of energy course through her body, and from that moment on she was cancer-free. How interesting is that? It's so beautiful. Interestingly enough, that's the tree yew, contains a substance called Taxol, which is used in the treatment of breast cancer. So, wow, that's so interesting. Recently, a few people on the cutting edge of alternative medicine have rediscovered the ancient art of tree spirit medicine based on Celtic tree lore. So based on, that just says see resources. How beautiful, trees are they just really felt that trees were so important. And have I marked something here? Oh, this is something else I was going to read, which is called the Enchanted Forest. So I'd like to read this too, if that's okay. So the Enchanted Forest. In April, a ripple of green fire spreads through the woods as the spirits of the trees awaken from their winter rest. So of course it's September for us, not April. Even in the most developed urban area today, the sight of a flowering cherry in a park or the leafing out of pale green willows along a city river uplifts the heart with the fresh promise of spring. We can only imagine what it must have been like for the early Celts whose lives were spent in the cradle of the great forest that once clothed all of northern Europe. It was said that in those days a squirrel could hop from branch to branch from one end of a country to the other without touching the ground. So wouldn't that be beautiful? It's so sad that we have destroyed that, and it's just not like that anymore. In the Iron Age, Scotland was clothed with the magnificent wood of Caledon. Ireland was covered with oak woods, and Brittany with the magical forest of Broccolade. I think that's how you say that. Whose remaining graves are haunted still by Merlin's ghost. How cool is that? In the environment, it is no wonder that the forest was perceived as the source of a tribe's sustenance, culture and spirituality, a food store of nuts, berries and game, a pharmaceutical of medicines, all natural medicines, a wood supply for shelter and the kindling of sacred fire. The forest was all of these and more to the early Celts. So they really respected the trees. Trees not only provided earthly sustenance, they were also regarded as living, magical beings who bestowed spiritual blessings, with their roots stretching down to the underworld and branches reaching to the upper world. They connected the powers above and below with the physical world. In Ireland, an individual tree of power was known as a billet. and was regarded with great reverence. The Billet Tartane, a giant ash that grew in County Meath, was said to have existed since the beginning of the world. The names of trees formed the letters of the Ogham alphabet and made potent spells when carved on staves of yew. Scarlet-berried rowan protected the byre. Strong ash lent power to the spear's flight. The first man was an alder, and the first woman a rowan tree. So they believe the first man was originally an alder tree and the first woman a rowan tree. When a tribe cleared the land for a settlement in Ireland, they always left a great tree in the middle, known as the Cron Baha, or Tree of Life. Isn't that beautiful? As the spiritual focus and source of well-being, they held assemblies and inaugurated their chieftains beneath it so that they could absorb power from above and below. So connected with above and below with the tree. One of the greatest triumphs a tribe could achieve over its enemies was to cut down their sacred tree, their foundation of strength and support. So they had a tree that they worshipped and gathered around, and I wish we did that now. In the mythical history of Ireland, a giant high as a wood with yellow hair down to his thighs and surrounded by a shining crystal veil once came out of the setting sun bearing a golden branch. On the branch grew apples, nuts and acorns at the same time, and he gave some of the fruit to be planted in the 5 provinces of Ireland, where they grew into 5 sacred trees: the ash of Tortu, the yew of Ross, the oak of Magna, and the bough of Datha, and the branching ash of Isneck, which stood next to the stone of divisions, the sacred navel of the country. Here they grew to a great height and girth, and as guardians of the land until they fell in the 17th century. How sad is that they knocked them down in the 17th century? And this is a nice little poem. A tree of gold on the field free from battle. Its crown reached the cloudy welkin. Sorry, I probably need my glasses. Thence the music of the men of the world was heard from the tree's crown. Whenever the violent wind would beat on the soft, fresh foliage of the tree, there would be vast plenty, amen, of its fruits on the soil of the earth. Every fruit the hosts would choose from east, from south, and from north, like the flood tide of the lazy sea, would come from the top of that one tree. Isn't that beautiful? So please respect trees, everyone. Please respect them. Don't knock them down unless they're dying or it's dangerous because they're dying. If you can help it, please don't, because they have spirits that live in them. They're alive, they have feelings, they have energy. They are so beautiful and we can't breathe without them. So they're all waking up. So I tend to say, welcome back from your sleep and things like that when they're waking up. So you can do that too. If you walk past a tree that's just waking up, say welcome back, hey tree. Maybe not if there's people around, because people give you funny looks, but it's lovely just to acknowledge trees and that they're there and that we can't live without them. So hope you enjoyed that. Have a blessed and beautiful spring equinox star in the southern hemisphere, and I'll talk to you again soon with another video. Blessings, blessed be, bye.